There is a pattern in the investment data, so consistent, so well documented, and so precisely repeatable that behavioral economists have studied it for decades without finding a meaningful exception. When markets fall sharply, retail investors sell. Not all of them, not immediately, and not always at the exact bottom. But the aggregate data tells a story that is difficult to misread. The peak of selling activity in any given market downturn tends to cluster within days or weeks of the market's lowest point. Investors hold through the early stages of a decline, watching their portfolios shrink, absorbing the discomfort, telling themselves the story that patient investors tell, that this too shall pass, that the market always recovers, that selling now would mean locking in a loss, and then, at some point in the decline, often when the news is at its most alarming, when the expert commentary is at its most pessimistic, when the emotional weight of watching the numbers fall has accumulated past a personal threshold, they sell. And then the market recovers. Not always immediately, not always cleanly, but it recovers, and the investor who sold near the bottom watches the recovery from the outside, having locked in a real loss and missed the return that would have erased it. To understand why this pattern repeats with such consistency, you have to start with a question that sounds almost philosophical, but is deeply practical. What does losing money actually feel like, neurologically? And why does that feeling produce the specific behavioral response of selling at the worst possible moment rather than any other response? The answer begins with a framework developed by psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky called prospect theory, which fundamentally changed how economists and psychologists understand human decision-making under conditions of risk and uncertainty. Before prospect theory, the dominant assumption in economics was that rational agents evaluate financial outcomes based on their actual monetary value, that a gain and a loss of equal size are processed as equal and opposite outcomes. Prospect theory demonstrated that this assumption is wrong in a specific and predictable way. Human beings do not evaluate outcomes from a neutral baseline of zero. They evaluate outcomes relative to a reference point, typically the position they currently occupy, and they weight losses from that reference point approximately twice as heavily as equivalent gains. The pain of losing $100 is not equal to the pleasure of gaining $100. It is approximately twice as intense, and this asymmetry is not a quirk of personality or a correctable cognitive error. It is a fundamental feature of how human beings process financial outcomes, consistent across cultures, income levels, education levels, and investment experience. Equal in money, not in psychology. That distinction is the foundation of everything that follows. The implications of this asymmetry for investor behavior are profound and specific. When a portfolio declines in value, the investor is not simply experiencing a smaller number on a screen. They are experiencing a loss relative to a reference point, and that loss activates a neurological threat response that is disproportionate to the actual financial magnitude of what has occurred. Brain imaging studies have shown that financial losses activate the same neural regions associated with physical pain and social rejection. The experience of watching a portfolio decline is not, for most people, a calm analytical process of updating financial projections. It is an emotionally aversive experience that generates genuine psychological distress. And that distress increases in intensity the longer the decline continues and the deeper it goes. The three stages are watchful discomfort, mounting distress, and finally, the threshold crossed. This is where the timing of the sell decision becomes explicable. In the early stages of a market decline, most investors are in a state of watchful discomfort. The loss is real but not yet unbearable. The recovery narrative is still plausible. As the decline deepens and the emotional accumulation of sustained loss intensifies, the balance between the discomfort of holding and the discomfort of selling shifts. At some point, the pain of continued holding exceeds the pain of selling, and at that point, the investor sells. Not because the financial analysis has changed, not because new information has arrived that genuinely changes the long-term outlook, but because the accumulated emotional weight of sustained loss has exceeded a personal psychological threshold. The sell decision is not a financial decision at that moment. It is a pain management decision. And understanding that distinction changes everything about how you prepare for it. What makes this particularly damaging from a financial perspective is that the point at which the emotional pain of holding tends to peak. the point at which the narrative is most alarming. The news is most dire, and the accumulated psychological distress is most intense, tends to coincide with the point at which the market is closest to its bottom. The worst headlines and the most pessimistic expert commentary characterize a market at or near its lowest point. Maximum distress and market bottom are not separate events. They are the same event. The financial cost of this behavioral pattern can be calculated with reasonable precision, and the numbers reveal a gap that is larger than most investors intuitively expect. Consider the 2008 financial crisis. Between October 2007 and March 2009, the S&P 500 declined approximately 57% from its peak. ICI mutual fund flow data from that period shows that retail investors were net sellers of equity funds throughout the decline, and that net selling reached its highest point in October 2008 and the first quarter of 2009, corresponding almost precisely with the market's lowest levels. An investor who sold their equity holdings in March 2009, at the point of maximum pessimism and maximum retail selling pressure, locked in a loss of approximately 50% from the 2007 peak. An investor who held through the entire decline and the subsequent recovery had fully recovered their losses by 2013 and had more than doubled their original investment by 2017. The difference in outcome between those two investors is not explained by different information or different analytical skill. It is explained entirely by behavior at the moment of maximum psychological distress. Apply the same analysis to the 2020 pandemic crash. Between February and March of 2020, the S&P 500 fell approximately 34% in 33 trading days, one of the fastest market declines in recorded history. Retail investor selling activity peaked in mid-March 2020, within days of the market's lowest point on March 23rd. An investor who sold at the March trough locked in a 34% loss. An investor who held recovered that loss within 5 months and had generated significant additional returns by the end of the year. The pattern is identical. The timing of peak retail selling and the timing of market bottoms are not coincidental. They are causally related. Both are produced by the same underlying condition of maximum negative sentiment, maximum fear, and maximum psychological distress. The crisis changes, the asset class changes, the headlines change, the behavioral pattern does not, because the psychology does not. Understanding why this happens at a systemic level requires examining what a market bottom actually is and how it comes to exist. A market bottom is not simply the point at which prices stop falling. It is the point at which selling pressure exhausts itself, where the pool of investors willing to sell at current prices has been largely depleted, and where the balance shifts from net selling to net buying. The retail investor selling at the bottom is not selling into a vacuum. They are selling to someone, typically that someone is an institutional investor, a systematic fund, or a long-term value-oriented buyer who has identified the current price level as an opportunity rather than a threat. The transaction that locks in the retail investor's loss simultaneously establishes the institutional buyer's entry point for the subsequent recovery. The retail investor's pain management decision and the institutional buyer's analytical decision are two sides of the same transaction, and the outcome for each party over the following years reflects the fundamental difference between a decision made under psychological distress and a decision made within a structured analytical framework. This dynamic is further amplified by the media and information environment in which retail investors make these decisions. The financial news cycle is not neutral with respect to market sentiment. It is systematically amplifying. During market declines, alarming headlines attract more attention, generate more engagement, and receive more coverage than measured contextual analysis. The investor navigating a declining portfolio while consuming financial news is not receiving a balanced picture of the current market. They are receiving an amplified version of the negative case. This amplification arrives at precisely the moment when the quality of the investor's decision-making is most compromised by emotional distress and confirming and intensifying feelings that are already pushing toward a sell decision. The portfolio declines. The alarming headlines increase. The emotional distress intensifies, which generates more attention to alarming headlines, which intensifies the distress further. The feedback loop is self-reinforcing, and it exits only through structural intervention. not through willpower or better information alone. The recognition that the sell decision near a market bottom is primarily a pain management decision rather than a financial one has practical implications that go well beyond simply knowing that you should not sell during a crash. Knowing that you should not sell during a crash is, for most investors, completely useless information in the moment when the decision is actually being made. Because the decision is not being made by the rational, informed part of the brain that reads articles about behavioral finance. It is being made by the part of the brain that is experiencing genuine psychological distress and seeking relief through action. Information does not reliably override a neurological pain response. Structure does. A written investment policy statement that specifies in advance under what conditions selling is appropriate, and critically, that a general market decline does not meet those conditions, is one of the most practical structural tools available to any investor. Written in calm, executed in crisis. The document does not prevent the emotional experience of the decline. It prevents that emotional experience from producing a financial decision. The investors who consistently avoid selling at market bottoms are not people who feel less fear during market downturns. The psychological research does not support that idea. What the research supports is that these investors have built decision-making structures that introduce friction between the impulse to sell and the execution of that impulse. Structures that slow down the decision, require deliberate engagement with the long-term evidence, and reduce the influence of short-term emotional state on long-term financial commitments. A mandatory waiting period before any sell order is executed. An investment policy statement consulted before any portfolio decision is made. A relationship with a financial advisor whose explicit role includes providing a counterweight to reactive decision-making during periods of market stress. None of these structures eliminate the emotional distress of a portfolio decline. They simply introduce enough distance between distress and action to allow the rational, informed framework to re-engage before the decision is finalized. The difference between the unstructured pathway and the structured pathway is not the amount of fear experienced. It is the distance between that fear and the financial decision it is trying to produce. In the unstructured pathway, that distance is near zero. Distress flows directly and immediately into action. In the structured pathway, that distance is deliberately extended. Checkpoints, waiting periods, and review frameworks inserting themselves between the emotional impulse and the financial execution. Structure creates the distance that reason needs. The market's history of recovery is among the most consistent empirical records available in finance. Not a guarantee, not a promise, but a documented pattern across more than a century of market data that spans 2 world wars, multiple financial crises, pandemics, and recessions of every severity. Every decline in that record was eventually followed by recovery. Every investor who held through the decline participated in that recovery. Every investor who sold near the bottom did not. Every investor who has ever sold at a market bottom did so, not because they lacked access to this historical record, but because the psychological experience of the decline made that record feel irrelevant to the immediate emotional reality of watching their money disappear. What investors know and what investors feel during a market decline are 2 entirely different inputs, and without structural infrastructure to mediate between them, feeling tends to win. Not because it is stronger, because it arrives first and acts faster. The equation is simple. Psychological distress plus no structure equals selling at the bottom. Psychological distress plus behavioral infrastructure equals holding through the bottom. The distress is the same in both equations. The outcome is entirely different. And the only variable that changes the outcome is the presence or absence of structure built before the distress arrived. Because once the distress has arrived, it is too late to build the structure that would have contained it. Closing the gap between what investors know intellectually and what they do emotionally requires not better information, but better infrastructure. It requires building the decision-making environment in advance, during calm periods with a clear head, when the emotional distortions of loss aversion and recency bias are not actively engaged, so that when those distortions arrive, as they reliably will in every market cycle, the structures already in place constrain the damage they can do. Build the infrastructure before you need it, because when you need it, it will be too late to build it. If this video gave you a clearer understanding of why the sell decision at a market Bottom is a pain management decision, rather than a financial one, and what that distinction means for how you build your own investment decision-making environment. Take a moment to like it, because it helps this kind of evidence-based behavioral finance content reach the investors who need it most. If you know someone who has sold during a market crash and struggled to understand why the decision that felt so rational in the moment produced such a costly outcome in retrospect, share this with them. And if you want to keep exploring the psychological systems and structural realities that shape real financial outcomes for real investors in real market conditions, subscribe, because that is exactly what this channel is built to deliver, one carefully researched and honestly presented video at a time.